You are spending $24,000 a year on marketing and it is not working. Not because your ads are bad, not because your SEO sucks, not because you picked the wrong marketing agency. The marketing is actually working. Leads are coming in, your phone is ringing, and people want to hire you. But for some reason, they are ghosting you before they ever become your clients. I'm Renata from the firm Edit, and I want to help you leverage your non-billable hours to help you build the law firm of your dreams. Today, I'm going to show you exactly where that $24,000 a year is going and the 3 broken systems that are killing your conversions. So here's what typically happens. You decide you need more clients, so you hire a digital marketing agency or a company to start running ads for you, maybe writing SEO content for your website and blog, creating social media content, maybe spending money in Google ads. And honestly, it's kind of working. The marketing team is probably doing a good enough job. People are filling out contact forms, your phone is ringing, and traffic is coming to your website. But there's also a problem because revenue isn't increasing and you're not really sure what's going on. Some leads are never calling you back. Some leads you aren't calling back. Some leads have a weird conversation or connection with your firm. Some people have great consultations and never sign up, and others are saying, let me think about it. And then they never call you back again. So what do? You think your marketing isn't working and you switch agencies, you spend more money in ads, you try a different strategy. But the truth is, the marketing actually is working. It's what's happening after the leads come in that is what the problem really is. And you're spending $2,000 a month to generate leads that are essentially falling into a black hole because you don't have the systems in place to actually convert them. So I want to break down the 3 systems that are probably broken in your firm right now. The first system is your intake process, and this is where most leads go to die. A client will find you online and call your office because they want to know if you're going to be a right fit. So the call comes into your office and crickets. It doesn't get answered. It goes to voicemail. Or maybe worse yet, it gets hired by someone who has no idea how to handle a legal inquiry. Look, I get it. You're busy doing actual legal work. You're going to court, you're drafting documents, you're in meetings. And the last thing I want to do is tell you to stop that. Now, in an ideal world, you'd have a non-attorney who would be handling these kinds of calls so that you could focus on your client work. But here is where it gets tricky. If that person isn't properly trained, they could actually do more harm for you than good. I've seen really timid receptionists who don't know how to answer questions confidently, and they fumble when a potential client pushes back on price or a process. They can't redirect the conversation when someone's asking for free legal advice. All in all, it's not a great consult. And then there's the opposite problem. You get someone who is overly confident, overly friendly. Maybe they're even giving legal advice when they shouldn't be. That comfort can turn into a liability because if that person starts giving legal advice, that is a nightmare for you that's waiting to happen. Now, the bottom line is this: if your intake process isn't tight, if your calls aren't answered promptly and properly, if your team isn't trained to handle professionally any kind of situation, and there's no system for who's picking up the phone and what they say, you're losing leads before you ever get a chance to talk to them. And so that marketing spend just generated a lead who called and had a bad experience and ultimately hired someone else. That is money down the drain. Let's say your intake process is great. Someone gets through, speaks to someone on your team and has a great first conversation and they want to book a consultation. Awesome. Except now what? Now, of course, if your intake call and your consultation are one and the same call, just group these 2 together. So now this is where system number 2 falls apart. You don't have a sales process. And I know what you're thinking. I'm a lawyer, not a salesperson. Now, you may feel icky about selling. You may feel like you're not properly trained, and you don't really want to spend time convincing people to hire you. But the reality is a consultation is a sales conversation. And if you don't have a process for how that conversation is going to go, again, you're going to be leaving a lot of money on the table. I see it a lot. Lawyers who are really brilliant in what they do, they can negotiate settlements, they can read through pages and pages of contracts. They don't know how to guide a conversation to close a sale. Now they can answer questions and give great legal insight, and they're helpful and knowledgeable, and they truly want to serve their client. But ultimately, their calls end with, "Oh, okay, well, let me know if you want to move forward." And the person on the phone says something like, "Great, I'll think about it." Or, "Let me talk to my spouse about it." And then you never hear from them again. Now, a good sales process doesn't mean having to be pushy or aggressive. It just means having a little bit of structure. So thinking about, how do you qualify the lead up front? What kind of questions do you need to ask to understand their situation and urgency? What's your call to action at the end? How do you talk about your services and pricing in a way that makes sense and also shows value? Without a clear process like this, you are totally winging it. And that means your conversion rate is going to be inconsistent at best. Some people are going to hire you, some people won't, and you're not going to be sure why. So now that marketing spend has generated a lead who's had a great conversation with your team and with you, and they've still hired somebody else because you didn't know how to close. More money wasted. Okay, now the third system that's broken, and honestly, this might be the most expensive for you, is that you don't have any kind of follow-up system. The potential client books a call, gets a conversation with your firm, and maybe they say, "That sounds great. I just want to talk about it with my spouse," or "I need to think about it a little bit and get back to you." And so they do, and then crickets. They ghost you. And you do nothing. Maybe you send one follow-up email or a phone call. "Hey, just checking in. Let me know if you have any questions." And when they don't respond, you just assume that they've hired someone else or moved on and don't need your help. But the reality is that that person is still probably very interested and they very much need your help. But what's happened? They got busy, they got distracted, their kid had a soccer game, they're overwhelmed, they're comparing you to other lawyers, they're just not ready to make a decision today. But they might be tomorrow or next week or next month, maybe even next year. But if you don't have a system to stay in touch with them, to stay in front of them, some type of nurture sequence, an email follow-up campaign, a phone call system, any kind of regular cadence, they are going to forget about you. And when they are finally ready to hire someone, they're going to hire the person who's showing up in their inbox at the right time. And that's not going to be you because you gave up after one email. This is where so much money gets left on the table. The fortune is in the follow-up. You're letting them disappear by not following up with them. So again, that monthly marketing spend has generated a lead who's interested in you, who just needed a little more time, and you haven't given it to them. You haven't followed up with them. If your intake process is broken, if your sales process is non-existent and you have no follow-up system, you're basically paying for leads that are slipping through your fingers at every single stage. That is not a marketing problem, my friend. That's an operations problem, and no amount of ad spend, no glorious, fancy, golden marketing agency can fix that. Now, if you're watching this and realizing that you've got one, two, maybe all three of these systems broken, you're not alone. And it's exactly why I've created a 12-week group coaching program that kicks off in January. It's specifically designed for law firm owners who want to build foundational operational systems that are actually going to convert their leads into clients. So we're going to tackle intake and sales and follow-up processes to make sure that you're actually able to convert all of that marketing into an actual client. If that doesn't sound interesting in you, hit subscribe, follow me on this channel so that you can learn more about how to leverage your non-billable hours into building the law firm of your dreams. I'm Renata from the firm Edit. I'm so glad that you're here with me today. I will see you on the next video.